Against the background of a dark fabric with a pattern of white roses, a figure with loose red hair stands turned away, as if pondering a thought. A silhouette of a man in a glowing suit with a child stands in the starry space. Their faceless forms stand against the background of a glowing shooting star, and cherubic figures and flowers float around them, creating an atmosphere of mysticism. The hand presents a bouquet of yellow roses tied with an orange ribbon, which represents parting or farewell, which is repeated with the text, "Let's break up," which whispers about separation. A woman with bright red hair and piercing blue eyes caught a moment of surprise. The text, "What?" hovers over her. She sits in front of a bouquet of yellow roses, which seem to reflect her shock, as if reacting to an unexpected event. The red-haired woman seems self-absorbed, reflecting on not regretting her decisions, contemplating life's twists and turns as she waits for an as-yet unknown heroine. The yellow roses standing next to each other may symbolize an important but undiscovered chapter in her story. The young woman tilts her head quizzically, her surprise evident as she processes the unexpected words. "What did you just say?" is a moment of awareness. With an air of melancholy, the silver-haired man speaks a deep truth. His words, "You're too good for me," implying indignity or deep admiration. Over tea, the woman listens attentively to the request, which brings a moment of revelation as indicated in the dialogue. "I heard a request to leave. That's it." Her world tilts on the axis of change. A close-up shows a mixture of confusion and insight on the woman's face as she utters, "No, wait," indicating a key pause in her understanding. The agony is visible in the young woman's eyes as she is faced with the unimaginable truth, her voice barely above a whisper, "You must kill me," revealing a fate she can barely comprehend. A man with silver hair indicating his noble birth sits confidently on a throne, his demeanor reflecting the belief that he is destined for greatness and power. Side by side stand a man with black hair, who is the embodiment of kindness, and a woman with nobility. Together, they embody the contrast between light and shadow. A man previously thought to be noble reveals a sinister smile obscured by dark vines, indicating a sinister turn in his character and intentions. The moment of violent climax, when even in the face of betrayal, the man's gaze remains intensely fixed on the woman, highlighting a complex and stormy relationship. A woman reflects on her past with her husband. She recalls how his possessiveness and the possibility of future violence prompted her to break up. Sitting at the table with a cup of tea, she sits across from him in a luxurious hall, confusedly reacting to his compliments, calling her a beautiful rose. A man who continues to express praise, comparing a woman to the bright sun and the elegance of a deer between mountains, while the woman ponders his words. The woman is puzzled by his strange compliments, sitting at a table overflowing with roses and treats. Silver-haired, holding a rose and talking about the excellence of a woman who perceives his words as extraordinary. The man speaks sadly of his own insignificance compared to the woman, to which she responds with assurances of his worth. He sits with a tear on his cheek, suffering from internal emotions, while the woman asks why he is crying. The two characters sit at a table where the woman reflects on the difficulties of the relationship and the possibility that her partner may want her dead in response to his admission of how things have become more complicated. Two hands lie on the table, one clearly expressing the desire to touch the other, accompanied by the words that this is exactly what is wanted. An emotional moment is shown when a hand suddenly reaches out and grabs a friend with force, causing surprise. A scene in an elegant room where a noble-looking man asks to let go of his hand, at which the girl expresses surprise. In response to the man's request to release his hand, the girl confesses that she does not understand his intentions, while he himself holds her tightly. During a meeting at the table, the girl anxiously asks her husband why he suddenly decided to break up. The man, with a thoughtful expression on his face, asks the girl a direct question if he doesn't like her, causing tension. With a mysterious look and coldness in his voice, the man rejects the girl's assumption, declaring a simple no. The girl asks herself if it is possible that the man is not as heartless and cruel as she thought, showing her anxiety. At a crucial moment, the man promises to love the girl even if she hurts him, depicting his emotions through metaphorical flowers. In a large, luxurious room, Rose stands in a bright yellow dress, expressing her desire for someone's happiness, a feeling that is reflected in the listener with a slight surprise. A close-up shows a man with piercing blue eyes and an expression of quiet humility, the single word, pity, hanging in the air, hinting at a complex emotional undertone. Rose seems startled as her companion, dressed in white with silver hair, abruptly stands up, preferring to leave. It seems that this decision was due to the inability to control overwhelming emotions. C. The blonde-haired figure promises a parting gift, expressing a deep final wish to Rosie, who, swathed in red and gold, responds with wide-eyed disbelief, insisting it's unnecessary. At the moment of the sharp departure, the silver-haired figure says a solemn goodbye, and Rose looks at her, her gaze tinged with sadness and perhaps a sense of longing. Rose calls after the departing figure, her voice conveying insistence and perhaps a hint of desperation, but the answer is a quick step, leaving an eerie silence behind. Left alone in the spacious room, Rosa clutches the air with her hands, her confusion palpable as strange creatures crowd around her, symbolizing her feelings of abandonment. Surrounded by fluttering creatures, Rosa widens her eyes, realizing the seriousness of the situation. The hero she once thought was steadfast is the same one who abandoned her. Sitting solemnly at a table decorated with tea and roses, Rose ponders the curse of knowing the inevitable. She reflects on the cruel incongruity of her love and the alienation of her lover, a dichotomy as stark as their contrasting appearances. Melly bursts into the room with a cheery shout to find Rose slumped back in a plush chair, her face partially covered by a fan. The luxurious setting hints at a stately residence. Exuding enthusiasm, Melly clasps her hands together, eyes shining, as she recounts how she just saw Belly cover his face, an action that seems to amuse or excite her. Dressed in a richly detailed dress, Rose listens in silence as Melly stands nearby. Her silence fills the room with anticipation, a language prompt hanging above her containing only ellipses. A dreamy Melly, with hearts fluttering around her, wonders aloud if Belly has made a romantic proposal, her excitement palpable as she cups her cheeks in delight. Melly animatedly tells Rose about the unusual atmosphere, recalling how Belly rented their favorite cafe and even prepared a bouquet of roses, bringing personality to the event. A look of curiosity appears on Melly's face as she questions why Belly chose yellow roses in particular, given their complex symbolism, which she ponders with a finger to her lips. A rose surrounded by red roses notes, wistfully that reds would be more appropriate, hinting at the preference of a gesture with a different emotional connotation. Melly stands up with a determined gesture, sharing the rumor that Bella's character doesn't match his gentle appearance, implying a discrepancy between looks and behavior. Content Rose mentions how much she enjoys watching Melly, expressing her sincere gratitude for the joy Melly brings to her life, which seems to knock her off her feet. In a moment of vulnerability, Melly reveals to Rose that she was abandoned at her own wedding, a confession that reveals past grief amid lavish surroundings. Rose, a woman with fiery red hair, stands off to the side, looking down thoughtfully as she hears a confession about Belle, her first love. The rustle of flowers in her hands breaks the silence, and she remembers how she almost died trying to escape from him. She holds a bouquet of bright yellow roses pressed tightly to her face, tears gathering in her eyes. She embodies the unsuccessful role of the second plan. Her eyes express sadness and longing, but at the same time, the unquenchable power of the spirit can be read in them. As dawn breaks over the green countryside, the stagecoach travels through the beauty of the early morning. The coachman, balanced and attentive, holds the reins, and a bubble floats in the air with a speech, proclaiming, "We cannot fathom the mind," as if the morning itself were pondering its secrets. In a cozy room, Rosa, with bright red hair, is amazed as she reads the letter. A look of shock and disbelief is etched on her face as the text reveals a surprise wedding announcement. Beside her, Melly, with brown hair, looks surprised, her mouth agape at this news. The atmosphere changes as Rose, swathed in a yellow dress that accentuates her red locks, bounces off a rumble of thunder from a clear sky. Her emerald eyes filled with confusion and sadness. The sound seemed to mirror the excitement within her. A funeral takes place in a gloomy setting with 3 mourners dressed in black. Bella's silver hair contrasts with the darkness around him as he stands stoically. Rose's musings, heavy with grief, offer chrysanthemums for a funeral instead of a holiday, her hands clutching yellow roses in a poignant metaphor for the fragility of life. Rose, with flowing red hair, looks sadly out the window. The accompanying text poetically describes her beauty, comparing it to the bright hue of roses, reinforcing the gloomy mood of the scene. A portrait of Rosa appears with closed eyes, as if in humility, surrounded by white roses, which emphasize her gloomy state. The lyrics allude to the tragedy that took her life, casting a shadow over her once bright presence. Belly with his silver hair and Melly with her auburn locks are in stark contrast to Rosa's bright red hair, who is holding a bouquet of white roses. A combination of urgency and tension fills the carriage as they approach their destination, Melly's anxiety palpable in the cramped space. Tensions rise as Rose, holding white roses, is confronted with the truth that Melly uncovers. The betrayal of her own father, who was supposed to be the protector of her happiness, leaves her in a state of shock, her eyes wide with the weight of the revelation. In a scene framed by warm light, the maid speaks anxiously to Rose, recalling that Rose's mother and brother were against something to the point of death. Even so, she adds, Rose's father was very fond of one couple. Suddenly there was an ominous roar in the room that startled both Rose and the maid, the sound punctuated by bold Korean letters. Rose looks alarmed, her red hair contrasting with the intricate yellow dress. Rose asks if the maid is okay after the commotion. The maid, looking puzzled, confirms that she is fine and wonders what happened. Rosa reassures her and decides to check outside. Outside, the driver tells the maid in disbelief that someone has fallen from a tree. The maid reacts with shock, asking, "From a tree?" Rosa, hearing the commotion, gets out of the carriage and tells the maid that it is dangerous and to stay put. The tone is urgent and protective. By the tree, a fiery-haired, elegant-looking man, Beryl, Rosa's brother, gracefully holds a sheaf of arrows. His posture is confident, and he exudes an aristocratic aura. Rose and Beryl, now together, look at the shocked coachman. Beryl bows apologetically, stating that climbing trees is typical for an aristocrat like him. Rose's expression is amused, and there is a hint of sarcasm in her response. As the day begins to wane, Beryl greets Melly, mocking her for being in such a place at this time. His manner is casual, but there is a certain warmth in his greeting. Rose approaches Beryl from behind, her presence commanding but gentle. She comments on the time of day, her silhouette frames the softer sky. In a vivid display of emotion, Rose stands poised and dignified, her red hair adorned with elaborate jewelry. Beryl, looking agitated with his arrows tightly clenched, protests strongly against Rose's apparent indifference, desperation in his voice. Their words, filled with intensity, reveal the complex history and depth of their current situation. Beryl's frustration is palpable as he recounts a past event involving Rose's brother, his voice rising in a crescendo of emotion. The look in his eyes, torn between anger and pleading, suggests a plea for understanding, a demand to explain his brother's actions, all while keeping his eyes fixed on Rose. Rose, whose green eyes reflect surprise and irritation, confronts Beryl. Her calm demeanor contrasts with his irritation as she questions his unexpected presence and reminds him of past boundaries he once respected. Her balanced position indicates a sense of power and control over the situation. Caught off guard, Beryl hastily explains her unexpected visit, a mixture of shock and justification in his voice. The revelation appears to be an attempt to clarify his actions, perhaps to protect his integrity or to find sympathy in Rose, who is a symbol of his suffering. Rose's expression softens as she considers Beryl's explanation, revealing a glimmer of contemplation behind her poised appearance. Her inner thoughts hint at the intrigues of her previous life and the complex emotions surrounding her rebirth, showing a depth of character that resonates beyond the surface. As the scene unfolds in a peaceful outdoor setting, Rose's clear disapproval of Beryl's behavior becomes apparent. Her body language speaks volumes as she turns away, making her point with firm conviction, while Beryl's reaction shows a combination of humility and wry amusement. Contemplating a crucial moment of survival, Rose stands alone, her thoughts weighed down by the weight of past actions and present consequences. The backdrop, a combination of nature and solitude, serves as a fitting backdrop for her introspective monologue about life, death, and the second chance that comes with reincarnation. Beryl, lively and expressive, tells Meili about the momentous first meeting, while Rose listens with a touch of nostalgia. The environment, filled with the tranquility of nature, frames a moment of personal history between the characters, hinting at a deeper connection and shared past experience. A dignified figure introduces itself into the room, bringing with it a sense of propriety and the promise of untold stories. His calm entrance, along with Rose's attentive gaze, sets the stage for new events, marking an important moment of transition and revelation for all present. In a sepia-toned snapshot of social dynamics, Beryl exudes stoic calm, while the others express a range of emotions and attitudes that suggest intrigue, skepticism, and curiosity. The scene captures a moment in a larger narrative, filled with subtle exchanges and unspoken tensions that hint at a rich tapestry of relationships and undercurrents. Beryl jokes about Rose's many flaws, but Beely playfully counters that it is Beryl who is unworthy of his sister. Beely suggests that Rose should be more well-mannered to match her aristocratic status, advising Beryl to begin her studies soon. Beryl falls to the ground as Beely nonchalantly offers to teach Rose proper manners for the next decade. Beryl, upset, accuses Beely of disapproving of their relationship, which Beely does not deny. In the luxury suite, Beryl insists he's more concerned about Rose causing trouble for Bella. He promises to give Rose 10 years of etiquette lessons unless he dies or his eyes fill with earth, hinting at his possible death. Rosa argues with Beryl about his earlier remark, alluding to her family's coat of arms. Surprised, Beryl tries to play along, but Rose seems unconvinced, leaving Beryl nervous about her suspicions. As Beely leaves, he remarks that he has no choice but to accept Beryl's terms, pleased that Beryl has understood the situation. Beryl bids him a careful farewell, unaware of the implication. Beely smiles, confirming his intention to personally pour dirt into Beryl's eyes. It's a dark promise, veiled in the guise of a casual comment that reveals his true intentions. As Beryl gleefully awaits Bella's departure, a muddy splatter on his hand from Bella's wet glove leaves him perplexed and begging for an explanation, unaware of the previous ominous conversation. Rose considers Beryl's statement, shocked. She seems to have just realized something important, perhaps related to the conversation or something deeper in Beryl's character. Rose accuses Meili of going behind her back, but Meili vehemently denies it. Their playful banter ends with Beryl laughing, breaking the tension and ending the exchange on a lighter note. In a serene outdoor setting, Beryl, with fiery golden hair, invites Rose and Meili for a carriage ride, suggesting nobility in their actions. After a grueling workout, Beryl is depicted feeling exhausted, fatigue evident in his eyes, hinting at the day's strenuous activities. A bouquet of golden roses appears unexpectedly. Its origin is mysterious, causing curiosity with its silent presence. Surprised and slightly agitated, Beryl questions Rose about the bouquet, mistakenly assuming it is a marriage proposal she received. Rose's mother is adamantly against the imaginary suitor, displaying a fierce protective instinct and unwillingness to allow Rose to marry just yet. Rosa calmly and politely declines the offer, while Beryl reacts with shock, unable to hide her deep disappointment. Beryl's downcast face meets Rose's reassurance, indicating a close bond between them as she gently declines the flowers. Beryl encourages Rose in her decision to turn down the offer, showing him support and camaraderie despite her own feelings. The scene moves to a moment of humor as Beryl misunderstands Rose's rejection, believing it to be because of the mythical tea, highlighting the bright side of their relationship. Rose stands sullenly, pondering the seriousness of the separation, the heavy emotional burden conveyed by her silence and facial expression. Beryl is left baffled by Rose's mention of the breakup, the news casting a shadow of confusion and worry over him. In a serene setting by a wooden carriage, Rose stands in a golden dress, reflecting on her own sense of dislocation and determination not to let her brother Beryl dictate her future. Under the twilight sky, Rosa shares a quiet moment alone, her thoughts mixed with determination and tears as she prepares to entrust the family affairs to someone yet to be seen. Beryl's shock is palpable as he questions how anyone could dare to leave his sister, his face a storm of inner turmoil, his eyes reflecting hurt pride. Fiery rage engulfs Beryl as he confronts Mela, whose expression oscillates between shock and fear, with Rose crumpled on the ground at his feet, a victim of his uncontrollable rage. Evening falls on Neil's elegant mansion. The windows glow with warm light, and the stars twinkle in the velvet night, foreshadowing the drama that is about to unfold. Rose's arrival at the mansion is met with a gentle welcome from a dignified woman who affectionately addresses her as "my dear daughter," setting the tone for a tender reunion. In the great drawing room of the mansion, the silhouettes of the expected guests create a mysterious appearance, and Rose, frightened, wonders aloud if something has happened in her absence. The entrance of the matronly figure brings with it a sense of formality. She stands poised, her elegant dress and fan in hand suggest a woman of status and grace. Rose ponders the eternal facade she must maintain, her expression a mix of resignation and contemplation as she stands in the sanctum of her room, the world around her in shades of gray. In sharp contrast, the girl stands illuminated by a beam of light, clutching documents, which is a symbol of a minor character whose existence serves only to illuminate the main character's story. Rose stands at a dressing table in a luxuriously decorated room, reflecting on the monotony of everyday activities such as eating and sleeping. The maid, Beryl, asks if she wants to wear a certain dress, emphasizing the boring repetition of such choices. In another scene, Rose contemplates the presence of servants, and a family portrait evokes a sense of family and belonging. The atmosphere is contemplative and slightly somber as Rose reflects on her surroundings. While Rosa is trying on a dress, her maid, Mealy, asks if she likes it, offering a choice between different sleeve styles. Rosa's disinterest is palpable. She feels deeply tired, unenthusiastic about the choices she is being offered. Melly checks the date with Rose, confirming that it is the number 7. This brief interaction indicates the passage of time and perhaps the approach of an important event or anniversary. Rose stands out with her bright red hair and determined expression. She declares her choice of dress, confirming her decision amid a floral background. This moment signifies that she is taking control amidst her previous apathy. A crescent moon can be seen above the stately home in the night sky, setting the scene for the evening's events. The caption, "Yesterday evening," suggests thinking about past events. Rose walks into a dimly lit room where her brother Beryl and the others are waiting. She asks about the situation, and the mood is tense, with anticipation in the air. Beryl eagerly tells Rose that they've been waiting for her to start dinner, stressing the importance of her presence. Foreboding is clearly visible in his voice and demeanor. As everyone gathers, a sudden announcement is made, creating an aura of tension. Everyone's attention is focused on the news with expressions of curiosity and concern. Beryl asks for extra candles to light up the dark room, but Rose says that the dim lighting creates atmosphere, indicating a deliberate mood setting for the evening. In the majestic hall, lit only by candles, a dialogue between Bela and an invisible interlocutor is heard. Bela complains about the darkness, and the voice from the darkness answers, finding a certain advantage in this. Mother Rose appears as the embodiment of sophistication, framed by light and flowers. She hints that Duchess Serenity must be informed of the separation. On the balcony under the starry sky, Beryl is talking to Rose. He apologizes for the poorly chosen moment for sincere confessions, disappointed by the unexpectedness of the circumstances. Mother Rose, elegantly holding a fan, reflects on a life where suddenness trumps predictability, hiding behind her accessory from prying eyes. In a comical situation, Beryl, surprised and frightened, fails, losing his balance and falling to the floor in a dark corridor. In the bedroom, Beryl lies on the floor holding her leg as Rose observes his mood swings, and he expresses his frustration at the breakup methods. Rose's father is outraged, addressing Beryl, condemning the situation and expressing his displeasure at having to justify another person's actions. A family meeting takes place in an elegant room, where Rose's mother expresses her determination to solve problems despite opposition, her confidence betrayed only by facial expressions. Rose's mother, sitting with her fan, mentally condemns the Duchess for her frivolity, not believing in the authenticity of her character, which contrasts so strongly with her own values. With an air of determination, Rose acknowledges the harsh truth that even heroes are subject to judgment, revealing the darker side of their tales of valor. Her eyes, shining with a mixture of feelings, seem to pierce the veil of glory that often envelops the reality of heroic deeds. Belly, in the midst of battle, elegantly wields a sword splashed with the blood of enemies. His demeanor is calm, almost nonchalant, amidst the violence that surrounds him, underscoring the grim reality that no one questions bloodshed when victory is the goal. Beryl stands by Rose, sharing her feelings of betrayal. His puzzled expression mirrors Rose's stoic disappointment as they reflect on their father leaving, which obviously left a deep wound on both siblings. In a moment of carefree beauty, the rose is depicted as a symbol of grace and elegance surrounded by roses. The text compares her to the first rose in the world, a metaphorical expression of her uniqueness and the pride she brings to her family. The tension dissipates when Beryl playfully, sarcastically compares Rose to a pumpkin, joking about the commonality of roses. However, the playful banter takes an unexpected turn when Rosa steps on the heating iron, her scream piercing the still air. Beryl reacts with shock to Rose's distress after the iron incident, a jocular mood quickly turning to concern. Rose stands by, trying to keep her composure despite the pain as they both face an unforeseen accident. As the mother of Rose's fans, she questions Rose about her response to the proposal, with an important decision in mind. The conversation shows the societal pressures and expectations placed on Rose. Rose ponders her mother's question about the proposal with a heavy heart, pondering the differences between the fictional romance and her reality. She admits that she is confused, pointing to her inner turmoil and the difficulty of the decision she has to face. Rose's mother, with a fan covering half her face, is informed of Rose's suitor's rejection of the proposal. Her nonchalant response hides any emotional reaction she might have while maintaining a facade of composure. Mother, still partially hidden by her admirer, reflects on the suitor's cowardice. Her words, tinged with disdain, suggest that the real reason for his retreat was his fear of facing Rose's menacing spirit. Rose sits thoughtfully in a luxurious study, pondering her heartache, because the man she loves does not reciprocate her love. All in the starlight, Rose is focused on the idea that her death will be the key to the victory of the main character. Suddenly interrupted by a voice, Rose turns around with a surprised look, her eyebrows raised in surprise. Rose's mother, Maylie, tenderly addresses the servant, ordering Bella to serve him whatever he wants, despite his distant demeanor. Lonely, Rose stands brooding under the cover of night, planning how she will get in the way of the hapless, jilted bride. Alone under the starry sky, Rose ponders how the discovery of Bella's true nature could change her destiny. In the semi-darkness of the hall, Rose stands in front of the mirror, listening to her mother's story about Bella's cruelty, which is known to everyone but her. Looking down at the blade hanging in the air, Rose wonders if Belly will reveal her true nature if she threatens to reveal herself. Surprised and confused, Rose wonders if she can end her life if her plan fails. In the royal drawing room, Rose sits with a composed expression on her face, gracefully insisting to Beryl, "Do as you please." Beryl is surprised, the crown-shaped shimmer above his head showing his surprise. After a few minutes, Beryl's face shows a mixture of surprise and determination. He agrees to meet with the person Rose mentioned, but doesn't trust her decision to send the person away. In another room lit by elaborate decor, Beryl's frustration reaches its peak as he screams about someone's imminent death, begging Mother Rose to ignore the warning. Then, amidst the elegant background, Rose stands her ground. In a calm but firm tone, she forbids Beryl to leave, claiming that it will only be with her permission. In a tense conversation, Beryl questions Rose's current actions, only to receive a simple, cryptic answer. A goldfish swimming across the stage emphasizes the specialness of the moment. With a fan covering half her face, Mother Rose teases the situation, her words light but her intentions perhaps layered, hinting at an ulterior motive for her apparent nonchalance. The dialogue switches to the maid, who assures Beryl that Rose is grown up and can handle herself. The maid's expression is soft and carefree, inspiring confidence in Rose's abilities. The rose stands proudly in the frame of an exquisite golden mirror. She says that it was unpleasant for her to meet with such a person. She is clearly ready to skip meetings. Finally, Mother Rose approves of Rose's decision, calling her wise while Beryl stands aside, a mixture of acceptance and reluctance on her face. In a room decorated with the elegance of a bygone era, Rose stands by a mirror, her red hair falling down her back. She asks in a gurgle, perhaps to her maid Melly, who exudes a gentle demeanor, "Shall we go then?" The scene is a breath before the transition, the air saturated with the foreboding of the journey to come. The next moment we find Beryl, his silver hair framing his serious face. His eyes, heavy with emotion, stare as he pleads in a voice, "Just follow me." There's a weight to his plea, an insistence that suggests more than a simple request. It's a quiet echo of unspoken stories and connections that strain hearts. Finally, Rose is enveloped in a soft glow, her emerald eyes twinkling with determination and longing. She says quietly, "To end this." It's a whisper to the winds of fate, a vow that permeates her being, binding her spirit to a fate that only she can meet. Sitting at a large dinner table laden with sweets, Rose's servant offers a simple solution for Rose to marry him, seemingly to solve an urgent problem. Outside, under a clear blue sky, Beryl curiously points out the family carriage to Rose, wondering if it belongs to Eli's family. Rose, surrounded by a soft floral background, stands in her elegant outfit. Maylie, watching from afar, ponders the identity of the lady in Rose, suspecting that it is not her brother's wife. On the bustling street, Mellie confidently assumes that the mysterious lady is once again stalking her brother, her suspicion evident in her careful observation of the lady's approach. The two maids, overcome with excitement, gossip merrily about the Eli family's love life, unaware of Rose's silent presence behind her delicate umbrella. Rose, wearing a flowing blue dress, becomes the target of gossip from Mellie, who is puzzled by her visit and suspects that Rose is about to get engaged. Mellie fills Rose in on a rumor she's heard, hinting that Rose plans to make up with the silver-haired man, her eyes wide with curiosity and concern. While sharing an umbrella, Mellie confesses to Rose her heartache at the thought of remarrying, but supports whatever decision Rose makes, a testament to her loyalty and commitment. Mellie passionately proclaims that Rose is the kindest, most carefree person she knows, her face animated with delight and a hint of drama. In a final scene filled with floating petals, Mellie questions Rose's contentment with life, while Rose looks on bewildered, as if pondering the deeper meaning of Mellie's philosophical musings. Rose and her companion Mellie are suddenly struck by a rock that flies out of nowhere, blocking their path. Screams fill the air as they both jump back, an unexpected obstacle catching them off guard on a cobbled street in the hot sun. In a quiet town square, Rose stares at a stone identical to the one before. Her inner thoughts reveal her curiosity about the unusual stone, tying it to recent events, reflecting on its meaning against the background of peace. Mellie, looking confused, holds her umbrella aloft and questions Rose about their premature departure from the carriage. Her confusion is palpable as she searches for an understanding as to why they have wandered so far from the manor. Walking under an umbrella, Rosa reveals her true intention. She wants not to run away from the confrontation, but rather to face it head-on. She contemplates a strategic ambush, considering a persistent course of action. A servant with silver hair, standing with dignified grace, greets Lady Rose. His name is James, a devoted butler whose presence is as steadfast as his duty. He apologizes for not announcing his visit, referring to the familiarity and respect between them. In the majesty of the grand estate, James gestures towards the stairs, instructing Mela to wait while he leads Rose up. His manners are impeccable, a testament to his role and the elegance of the setting. Confronting James, Rose learns of the separation that took place. The news seems to have shaken her. Her reaction suggests a personal connection to the case, evoking emotions that even she may not fully understand. Rose ponders a message meant for a certain hero, a revelation that comes to her amidst the luxury of the estate. It becomes clear to her that the message is about her own abandonment, an awareness that hangs in the air, silent and heavy. Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, Rosa contemplates her situation through a metaphorical prism. She likens herself to an abandoned girl, her heart reaching out for the hero, leaving her in tears and sighs, a poignant image of her inner turmoil. In a quiet hallway, Rose asks James a question that cuts to the core of his soul. The subtext is clear. Is she here to encourage the hero to reconcile? His reaction is silent surprise, an unspoken dialogue that fills the space between them. Rose stands with a look of uncertainty, her face a look of restrained beauty as she asks a question that suggests she is considering an important action, her eyes searching for an answer. In a well-appointed office, a servant respectfully interrupts Belly, requesting permission to enter with a specific request, to which Beely responds with a simple, approving gesture. Belly, surrounded by books and papers, looks up with a mixture of surprise and curiosity when his servant informs him of an unexpected visitor, a deviation from his plans for the day. Despite the break in his schedule, Bella's intrigue is interrupted by the personality of an unexpected guest, a shadow of interest crossing his face as he contemplates the visit. With an almost playful arrogance, Belly declares his openness to the audacity of the visitor in seeking an audience with him, intrigued by their boldness. The moment of revelation comes when Rose appears in the doorway with a servant, her presence commanding the attention of the room, her position restrained elegance. Belly, caught off guard, can only say Rose's name, his surprise evident in his wide eyes and relaxed posture as he looks at her. In the sweet delight scene, Rose is shown with a cherry treat delicately placed between her fingers, her face showing rapturous surprise at the confection's taste. Finally, Rose and Belly share a moment of peaceful enjoyment as he expresses his satisfaction that she appreciates the flavors offered to them, a subtle connection that unfolds as they share a meal. Belly, with his long silver hair, seems a little tired as he asks about Rose's well-being, expressing concern about her appearance. His gaze is attentive, his posture is even, but not devoid of a note of concern. Rose, her profile looming in the background, reluctantly reveals that her appetite has disappeared since their breakup, a confession that carries the quiet depth of the emotions she's been feeling. At the dinner table, Rose scornfully recalls their separation, snapping back at Bella's question, holding herself casually as she sips her tea, masking the confusion the memory might stir within her. Rose almost gets lost in the luxurious array of desserts, the sweet pleasure momentarily distracting her from her goal. Confectionery shines, as if reflecting the temporary sweetness of her life. Looking at Belle, Rose's eyes flash with emotion as she accuses him of being afraid to start over. There is a challenge to her position, her words a mixture of accusation and vulnerability. Rose's piercing words seem to have been caught off guard. His contemplative silence speaks volumes as he digests the thought that no matter the situation, the solution to their estrangement remains the same. As Rose fights back the tears, the realization that she can't just forget her feelings comes over her like a wave. She feels longing and confused as she struggles with her heartache. Deep in thought, Rose questions the nature of goodness in people, pondering what makes a person truly noble or virtuous, her gaze trailing off as she ponders this philosophical dilemma. With an almost pained expression on his face, Belly reflects on his character, presenting himself as the opposite of kindness. The silence that follows his words is heavy with unspoken thoughts and feelings. Belly, finding himself unable to articulate his complicated feelings, apologizes to Rose. The formality of the dining setting contrasts sharply with the raw, unspoken emotions that hang in the air. In a study drenched in golden light, Rose discusses the obligations of nobility with Belly, referring to the weight of tradition that binds their social class. Belly pensively holds his quill as he ponders Rose's words about the fallibility of nobles, his silence weighted with contemplation. Looking up from his desk, Belly finds an analogy in Rose's statement, reflecting on the similarities of those in power to himself, both in privilege and burden. Rose responds with humility, noting that she is bound by the desires of Bella's heart, calling his name with a combination of love and duty. In the bright kitchen, Beryl confronts Rose, his voice full of shock and anger, asking why she accepted an offer she didn't have. Melly intervenes in a heated exchange between Rose and Beryl, urging them not to argue, while Beryl's frustrations lurk beneath the surface. Beryl, still seething with emotion, persuades Mela to lower her hands, his confusion and irritation momentarily subsiding. Melly's joy explodes as she imagines the wedding, her dreams filled with flowers and hearts, her anticipation for the event evident in her cheerful pose. However, it turns out that the intended wedding is only a proposal. Melly and Beryl are not on speaking terms, and Rose quietly corrects their mistake. Having found themselves in the bizarre fantasies of the maids, Rose is bombarded with questions about the preparations for the wedding, which is still far from planned. In the warmly lit room, Beryl cheerfully tries to engage Rose in conversation, but his efforts seem to go unnoticed. Rose, absorbed in her own thoughts, does not seem to hear his words. Her attention seems distant. Aware of Rose's alienation, Beryl muses that he needs to try a different approach, half joking that he's managed to get at least some of her attention, which seems like a difficult feat. Rose suddenly comes back to the present, surprised and perhaps pondering Beryl's statement. Her facial expression changes, hinting at an awareness or review of her thoughts. Beryl stands confused, scratching her head in confusion, unable to understand why Rose seems so distant after their recent meeting, his concern for her evident. A sudden surge of emotion overcomes Beryl as he cries out in frustration. His face contorts with concern as he assures himself that as Rose's brother, it's his duty to protect her no matter what. A flashback shows how the strict matriarch scolds young Beryl, emphasizing the weight of responsibility he bears as the future head of the family. Her words left an indelible mark on him. Back in the present, Beryl vehemently protests against the frequent talk of his death, his agitation clearly visible as he declares his refusal to accept such a fate, the garden around him a stark contrast to his inner turmoil. Roz watches, bewildered by Beryl's emotional outburst, his distress bringing her back to the immediacy of the situation, her face a mixture of worry and bewilderment. Their father watches the scene unfold with an air of somber contemplation, pondering his own fears for Rose, sharing the gravity of the moment engulfing the family. In the quiet garden, Beryl confronts Rose about their father's earlier statement, apparently irritated by the thought, while Rose stands aside, questioning if this is really the issue they're concerned with now. In a cozy garden, the girl's mother with brown hair, wearing a white dress with a floral pattern, sits on a bench and delicately holds a cherry stone in her hands. She seems to be saying something to someone that suggests she is surprised by her own daughter Rose, ironically noting her ability to cause trouble. Rose, with fiery red hair, stands in a flowing dress, her face an expression of surprise. The girl's facial expressions and gestures indicate uncertainty in responding to her mother's critical remark, as if she is not quite sure whether she should take the words as a compliment. The mother, with a calm and thoughtful expression on her face, looks thoughtfully out the window. She speaks about a certain event that Rose seems to have responded to someone about, but the specifics of that conversation remain unknown. Rose, now determined in her expression, seemed to agree with something that made her think. She mentions going back to the original script, which alludes to some past decision or plan that she may have previously discarded. Lost in thought, Rose looks serious with an exquisite sadness on her face. She assumes that her mother also shares a certain feeling, perhaps the same that she feels herself, but that feeling remains unspoken. In a scene filled with floral accents, Rose sits thoughtfully on a chair, contemplating love with a troubled expression on her face. Above her, a language cue reveals her inner turmoil as she questions herself about the nature of love and confesses a desire to die, suggesting deep despair. In the shade of the trees, Rosa confronts her brother Beryl, asking why he agreed to anything, her tone hinting at disappointment and concern. Beryl, sprawled carelessly, seems surprised by her request, indicating a conflict of expectations between them. Beryl stands furiously, his face contorted with anger as he loudly proclaims someone's madness, while an older gentleman, presumably their father, reacts in shock behind him. This discovery suggests a scandal or serious problem in their circle, as Beryl appears to be addressing the group. Rosa meets her mother outdoors. The atmosphere is tense. Her mother, sitting in a rocking chair, stern and unyielding, presses Rose for answers. Rosa thinks about herself, fearing the consequences of her silence, emphasizing the strained relationship with her mother. In a dramatic confrontation, a contrite man kneels before Belly, begging for forgiveness and pleading for his life. His plea is set against a bright, dark background, emphasizing the gravity of his situation and the power dynamics at play. Beryl, authoritative and enigmatic, stands tall in the dark setting, his silver hair and intricate clothing shimmering. He speaks a phrase that carries the weight of solemnity. His face combines stoicism and a hint of deep emotions. The scene shifts to a more personal moment, as Rosa's mother expresses her frustration. She implies that Rosa should have valued her life from the start, a criticism that feels both sharp and concerned, revealing the complex dynamic between mother and daughter. Beryl's expression softens considerably when surrounded by a lighter floral background. His spoken word cue, filled with his name, suggests a moment of gentleness or personal revelation, in stark contrast to the earlier scenes of tension. Finally, in a lavish interior, Rose surprises Bella with her presence, prompting a playful exchange. Her unexpected visit and his reaction highlight a light-hearted interaction that contrasts sharply with the previous intensity, suggesting a multifaceted relationship. In the lush garden, Rose, a woman with striking red hair, sits at an outdoor table, watching the playful interaction between Beryl, her golden-haired brother, and their father, who sports an elaborate mustache. Beryl teases their father by imitating his mustache with a pair of glasses, causing laughter from Rose, who finds the scene cute. The playful banter continues as Beryl nonchalantly pokes fun at her father's mustache. Their father gets in on the fun and adjusts his fake mustache, much to Rose's amusement as she sips her tea, pleased with the family banter. In the next scene, Beryl stands firmly with her hands on her hips, making a comical statement about the couple's expectation of cuteness, which was apparently the subject of a family joke. Rosa watches this with a slight smile, enjoying the quirky family discussions. A sudden realization hits Beryl as his father's joke about being cute takes a turn, suggesting that his future wife might expect the same. This unexpected turn makes Beryl blush, while Rose finds amusement in her brother's embarrassment. The family's playful discourse continues outside, where Beryl's father teases him about his upcoming marriage, hinting that Beryl may not be cute enough for his wife's affections. This causes Beryl to ponder the idea, much to the amusement of his sister Rose. In a warmly lit room, Rose's mother, a woman with brown hair, confidently asserts that Beryl inherited his features from her. She hints at the understanding she's come to after talking to his father, with a mysterious look surrounding her words. A worried Beryl is comforted by her mother's voice from off-screen, who urges him to invite his sweetheart to the mansion. Beryl is shocked by the proposal, and he hesitantly responds, expressing his misgivings about their sanity. As the day fades, the grandeur of the family mansion is accentuated by the setting sun. The atmosphere is calm and the early serenity seems to merge with the evening hues. Inside the mansion, Rose can be seen resting, engrossed in a book. The maid informs her that the mayor insists on her presence outside. Rose's response is calm and composed, indicating her preoccupation with the preparations for the engagement. Finally, the two women discuss wedding congratulations, share their excitement. One woman decides how she will greet the bride and groom, to the joyous agreement of the other. Rosa sits and reads, her face reminiscent of confusion and curiosity. She wonders aloud why the hero of her book is thinking about separation when marriage is planned. Lost in the pages, she ponders this paradox, frowning slightly. With closed eyes and a calm expression on her face, Rose reflects on her own unsophisticated personality. Despite her efforts, there is an acknowledgement of her unique traits that suggests a quiet struggle with self-perception. Rose seems shocked by the hypothetical separation letter. Her surprised expression and the sparkles around her indicate an important realization or emotional epiphany in the story. In a sunlit room, Rosa talks to her maids about the charm of unpredictable literary heroes. They stand before her, discussing the appeal of such characters, emphasizing their shared enthusiasm for dynamic heroes. The maid expresses her desire for a suitor who is humorous and gentle, which contrasts with the character in the book. She stands in the window frame, longing for someone other than the unpredictable hero. Rose quietly reflects on the wisdom of never getting close to anyone, reflecting on the complexity of relationships. Her introspection is profound, hinting at personal experiences that have shaped her perspective. The maids react in shock to the event, their expressions and dramatic background illustrating their astonishment. They stand close to each other, their shared astonishment emphasizing the impact of the revelation. With a dreamy look, Rose ponders the kind of man she admires, one who is kind to her and equally kind to others. Her soft smile reveals her admiration and desire to have such a character in her life. The maids look on in awe, realizing that Rose understands more than they expected. There is a mixture of respect and surprise on their faces, emphasizing Rose's unexpected depth. Immersed in a dream, Rosa contemplates a man who brings her joy with just one thought. She imagines herself taking the initiative with such a man, her satisfied smile showing that she is at peace with her desires. Two girls discuss the man's character, wondering if someone with such traits could exist. One of them, Rose, dreams of an ideal man with sadness in her voice, while her friend expresses doubt that such men are real. Rose is fascinated by the idea of a man who is cold to others but kind to his beloved. She imagines what it would be like to have a loved one with such devotion, while her friends listen with interest by her side. Rose's mother, a woman with brown hair, wisely points out that such men do exist, but they are as cold as the winter wind with others, despite their warmth towards their beloved. Belly, a man with grayish hair, is depicted in the contrast of darkness and light as a symbol of a complex nature, cold and inaccessible but capable of deep feelings for the chosen one. Rose, with a deep look in her green eyes, thinks about Belly, as if he can freeze a flower with his touch, but at the same time reveal its beauty. In the break room, Rose subtly hints at her more cold nature compared to Belly, while her mother, involved in the plot, demurs, asking her to be honest. Servant Rose and her friend express their support and loyalty to the landlady, emphasizing her true nobility that exceeds their expectations. Rose reflects on Bella's heroic courage, noting that many hide their true selves, but he's not. He's open and real. In conversation with the maids, Rose shares the observation that perhaps she's colder than Belly, and the mother responds with easy agreement. Rose asks the maid to borrow some novels that could help her in self-education and understanding of the world, feeling the need for personal. The picturesque estate of the Rose family reveals their high position, majesty, and nobility, and the luxurious carriages in front of the house reinforce the impression of their wealth and influence. Belly stands gracefully, a polite hint of hesitation in his voice, as he wonders aloud if he's arrived too soon, an uncertainty wrapped in the formality of his regal attire. In a sumptuously decorated, sunlit room, the servants present gifts respectfully to Belly, who doubts whether the offerings will please Rose's family, his tone mixed with anticipation and respect. Rose, caught in a moment of reflection, looks out, contemplating Bella's characteristic punctuality with a mix of anticipation and light amusement, her internal dialogue painting a picture of gentle familiarity. Rose cups Bella's face with a gentle touch, their eyes meeting in an intimate exchange, the space between them filled with unspoken affection as she softly declares him, "My moon." Around the table, a diverse collection of people engage in conversation, the atmosphere filled with propriety and expectation, as Belly addresses them with a deference befitting their status. Rose's mother delicately questions the familiarity of Bella's address, her words dancing between the lines of etiquette and intimacy, the subtleties of their discourse reflecting society's expectations. Belly, partially turned away, ponders the appropriate form of address, his contemplation a silent echo of the layered conversations that permeate the refined air of the room. With a smile, Belly dismisses the need for titles or formalities, his gaze warm and inviting as he insists on simplicity and genuine connection, even suggesting a future as part of the Rose family. Rose's mother, touched by Bella's words, allows a moment of vulnerability to show, her hand to her lips, a gesture of quiet surprise and a hint of acceptance. In the afternoon sun, Beryl speaks with modern clarity, his eyes shining with youthful foresight, contrasting the snap judgments of his generation against the uncertain future. In the lavishly decorated room, Rose's mother suggests not to worry and to think ahead positively, to which Beryl, Rose's brother, casually agrees while sipping tea. Meanwhile, Rosa stands nearby, seemingly thoughtful. As Beryl complains about the quality of the tea, he doubts his family's ability to even make a decent cup, questioning the intentions of what is being offered to his sister Rose. The next moment, Beryl explodes in anger over the poor quality of the tea, demanding to know who is responsible for this culinary disaster. The culprit turns out to be their father, who admits to his role as a simple eye. Beryl is stunned, his shock evident when he recognizes his father as the cause of the accident. Rose's mother, elegant and poised, tries to save the day by offering to make the tea herself as their important guest has arrived, and Beryl can hardly contain her disappointment. As their father makes a hasty exit, Beryl reaches out in vain, explaining that he didn't mean to smash the beer as the family dynamic is clearly strained. Rose's mother gracefully apologized for her son's rudeness, her demeanor calm and unruffled despite the earlier commotion. Belly, a visitor with bright silver hair, brushes off the incident, expressing relief that it wasn't worse, and suggesting that keeping quiet might have been a better choice. Rose's mother, shocked at the state of the tea, reflects on the effort she put into making it, now wasted. Finally, the symbolic red cloth with a green jewel symbolizes the family's hope, proclaiming a bright future without obstacles in their way. White, with her bright silver hair, modestly suggests, "The atmosphere seems calm, but there is a certain tension when he talks. His dialogue implies a formal topic of conversation, perhaps related to a ceremonial matter. Rose's mother, a woman with brown hair, speaks with a mixture of curiosity and concern as she inquires about the reasons for the desired separation. The expression on her face shows that she is serious and seeks understanding, not just answers. When the mother and Belly run into each other, their conversation goes back to the past. Mother wonders if Belly heard any rumors before meeting Rosa. It gives the impression that you are seeking confirmation or information from him, which indicates the importance of reputation and public perception in their discourse. A dramatic shift occurs when Belly expresses his belief that the ends justify the means, and that it is natural for the strong to dominate the weak. This philosophy hints at the dark side of his character and the ruthlessness that belies his calm demeanor. In a serene nighttime setting, Rose talks about meeting Belly at a party. The landscape is romantic, with the moon and stars above, suggesting a pivotal moment in Rose's life that took place under the cover of darkness. Belly, sitting calmly, discusses her affection for Rose in front of a woman with fiery red hair, presumably Rose herself. The dialogue reveals his affection and perhaps a sense of ownership or pride in her. When Rosa listens to Belly talking about her in happy expressions, she seems surprised. Her wide-eyed expression suggests surprise or disbelief at his words, emphasizing her emotional vulnerability in the moment. The room is filled with light and shadow as Rose's mother teases Bella about Rose's qualities. There is a playful tone to the conversation, despite the fact that the discussion was about the serious subject of Rose's nature. With a contemplative eye, Rose examines her own feelings and the consequences of not having a purpose or passion in life. Her introspective outlook suggests a deep inner conflict about her identity and her future. Rose stands surrounded by a delicate floral backdrop as she overhears the introspective musings of Beryl, who, with flowing silver hair, reflects on the increased happiness that their growing bond brings. However, Rose seems troubled, her striking green eyes betraying an inner excitement despite the soft flowers framing her face. In a serene setting, Rose stands beside Beryl, his regal attire adorned with gold tassels, as he delivers a somber devotion. He is willing to defend her honor at the cost of his own life if necessary, his voice a calm whisper amidst the lush flowers that surround them both. Beryl, his silver hair shining among the falling snowflakes, talks about his worries but chooses to give joy. He speaks of the happiness that comes from protecting others, his devotion shining as clearly as the exquisite brooch on his chest. Rose listens, the expression on her face thoughtful, despite the seriousness of his words. The atmosphere of the holiday remains. Beryl's stately presence is somewhat overshadowed by Beryl's sudden arrival, his golden hair a stark contrast to the muted tones of the room. Beryl's surprise and concern is palpable as he states the disturbing truth about his sister Rose, his tone hinting at the complexity of the family. With a charming smile and sparkling green eyes, Beryl shares a candid observation about Rose's selfless nature. He notes her willingness to sacrifice her own well-being for the sake of others, his admiration evident even as he playfully alludes to her tendency to be overly generous. Rose's hand is captured in a tense moment when Beryl warns her not to feign friendship, his words harsh. A gentle touch against the background of Rose's rich green sleeve speaks of what lies at the heart of their relationship, of a combination of care and caution. Beryl is struck with realization, his golden locks framing his face in disarray as he rebukes the unseen deception. Rose remains calm, her expression steadfast, her poise contrasting sharply with Beryl's agitation as the dialogue hints at betrayal. As Beryl's concern comes to the surface, he asks about the disagreements involving Rose, and his face softens with concern. The reference to their father setting the tea underlines the domestic routine amidst the brewing storm of emotions. Maternal elegance graces the stage as Rose's mother, with her auburn hair elegantly coiffed, contemplates the preparations for her upcoming engagement. Her sudden exclamation, "Mom!" cuts through the air, indicating an urgent and personal revelation. In a lavish room, Rose expresses her fondness for white flowers, her words implying a veiled message, perhaps of purity or superiority, that may hint at her inner thoughts about the current debate. With fire in his eyes, Beryl speaks passionately about the responsibilities of family, his posture firm with conviction as he pleads the importance of loyalty and duty, perhaps defying Rose's previous statements or decisions. Surrounded by a symbolic fiery backdrop, Beryl stands resolute, his frustration evident in his fiery aura. His mind seems to be racing with heated thoughts, while Rose and Belial sit beside him, their calm in stark contrast to his excitement. Rose, whose eyes reveal a combination of determination and vulnerability, opposes the engagement, her statement that she prefers the stone to an unwanted marriage reflecting her strong will and perhaps her willingness to face societal backlash. Finally, Belial speaks in the shadows, his silhouette against the starry background emphasizing the weight of his words, which likely reveal his true feelings or decisions on the matter at hand. Belial admits what he's been waiting for with a faint smile, his expression a mixture of pleasure and relief, as if a plan has been realized or an important truth has been recognized. Belly and Beryl understood for a moment, his gentle touch on her hand a comforting presence, indicating his support for her position, strengthening the bond between them. Beryl holds a green gem, his gesture a challenge to test the other's resolve, perhaps symbolizing an important choice or turning point in their conversation. Belial's face is set in shock as he ponders the implications of the conversation, his previous calm replaced by disbelief that could signal a twist or unexpected opening in their dialogue. Finally, Belial looks intently at Beryl, his touch on his brother's face gentle but firm, a sign of reassurance or perhaps a warning, conveying the deep, unspoken emotions between them. In a moment of quiet reflection, a black-haired woman adorned in an elegant outfit laments her son's rudeness, her eyes carrying a hint of sadness amid the opulence that surrounds her. In the sumptuous room, the golden-haired Beryl looks downcast, sandwiched between the austere Belial, whose silver hair falls in a waterfall, and the Rose, whose fiery locks and flamboyant attire suggest a buoyant spirit. She insists on walking with Belial, while Beryl must stay. 3 young ladies attend to Rose, her crimson hair shining brightly against her pale outfit. One girl seeks insight into Rose's relationship struggles, receiving simple validation, while another mends Rose's dress, ensuring it's perfect. The final touches to Rose's image are added by her maids. Her bright hair and green bow frame her gratitude. "Thank you," a simple acknowledgement of their diligence and care. When Rosa orders one maid to stay, her commanding presence is felt. Even without adornment, her natural poise clearly contrasts with the simplicity of her maid's uniforms. Rose is determined, declaring her intention to walk with her lover, her eyes shining with the same determination that matches her fiery hair. In a garden full of bright roses, Belial and Rose walk side by side, the white shine of his hair contrasting sharply with the riot of colors of the garden and her bright dress. Caught off guard, Rose asks Belial, "What is this? My wolf cub?" Her eyes are wide with concern as they stop amidst the floral splendor. Belial playfully teases Rose about her nickname, Awakening, his features comically softening, eliciting an indignant but affectionate response from her. Rosa, with an enthusiastic look, exclaims her affection for something, and Beli, misunderstanding the moment, assumes that she does not like it. She quickly reassures him that, on the contrary, she likes everything he does. Their conversation shows a deepening of affection, and each word reveals more of their inner feelings. Belly, a little taken aback, tells Rose that he was a little taken aback and thought she was doing something out of the ordinary for her. The Rose standing next to him among the blooming roses seems to be carefully considering his words. As they continue to exchange thoughts, Belly admits that he felt he was too casual compared to her, prompting him to act more formal. Rose, in her bright outfit, looks at him with a slight bewilderment in her eyes, perhaps not expecting such a revelation. It is clear that their interaction is permeated with a confusing dance of emotions and expectations. Distraught, Rosa apologizes for shocking Belly and promises not to repeat her actions again. The sincerity in her voice reflects the delicate balance of their developing relationship. Belly gently assures her that there is no need to apologize, his words softening the moment between them. In a tender display of emotion, Belly tells Rose with a warm smile that she makes him happy, and his eyes reflect his satisfaction. The beauty of the surrounding garden pales in comparison to the joy they find in each other's company. Rose expresses her joy in response, finding solace in the depths of her thoughts about her. Rose, overwhelmed by feelings, hugs Belly, hiding her face on his chest. The petals around them seem to reflect the warmth of their affection. Belly, with a gentle hand on her back, stands calmly, the closeness marking a moment of vulnerability and connection. As they stand side by side, Rose gives Bella permission to continue calling her affectionate nicknames, a sign of their intimate connection. Bella's gentle smile suggests that he is content with this closeness, and the gentle words seem to bring them even closer. Rose playfully suggests her own set of cute nicknames for Bella, each one more adorable than the last. The whimsy in her voice adds lightness to their moment, and Bailey agrees, his happiness clear in his response. The ease of their communication emphasizes the comfort and joy they find in each other's presence. As they stand together, Belly remarks on the beauty of the garden, perhaps trying to steer the conversation to a more neutral topic. However, Rose notices his attempt to change the subject, perhaps indicating an underlying nervousness or a desire to keep the moment light and lighthearted. In the tranquil setting of a well-tended garden, Belly stands holding a bright bouquet of red roses, the flowers of which create a vivid contrast against his long silver hair and elegant purple outfit. He comments on the beauty of the family garden, expressing a sense of happiness as he associates the sight of roses with thoughts of Rose. Rosa, with bright red hair, approaches Bella with her back to us, wearing a yellow hat and a frilled dress. She asks Belly about the roses, looking slightly puzzled or curious about his interest in them. The scene shifts to a slightly different angle in the garden, where Belly responds to Rosa's suggestion of his fondness for roses. He confirms this, although his face shows a soft resignation rather than joy, suggesting a more complex relationship with the flowers that surround him. Rose gently touches the rosebush, her back still to us, revealing a hint of her exquisite green dress. She echoes White's previous statements that it is impossible not to love roses, given how she has always lived among them. Her tone seems to contain a tinge of inevitable acceptance. With a thin smile, Rose remembers the yellow roses Bella once gave her, noting that they still decorate her room. Her eyes are closed in reminiscence, and her posture suggests an attachment to the memory, despite the subtext of the conversation. Belly and Rose stand facing each other, their postures suggestive of a formal interaction. Rose asks White to dispose of the yellow roses he gave her earlier, to which he agrees with polite compliance. The atmosphere suggests a combination of duty and emotional detachment. Rose holds a yellow rose close to her face, her eyes conveying strong emotions. She explains that the reason for their separation lies in the gift of yellow roses, hinting at a deeper, unspoken anxiety. On closer inspection, Bailey looks pained and pensive, looking down. He expresses a sense of humility in admitting his inability to fully change, which seems to be the source of the inner conflict associated with their situation. The narrative shifts when Belly recalls a poignant memory of Melly, shown in a vulnerable state, surrounded by shadows. He trusts the desire to always watch over her, showing protective and steadfast affection. In a full view of the garden, Belly and Rose stand facing each other, exchanging a hand gesture over the roses. The moment is punctuated by Rose's puzzled inquiry, prompting an explanation, while Belly maintains a stance of reserved nobility. Rosa stands with a calm expression on her face, staring into the distance, while Belly kneels before her in a gesture of devotion. "Because I love you," he declares, the gentle words buzzing through the air that speaks of his unwavering adoration. Surprise sparkles in Rose's eyes as she hears the familiar words of love, a truth that seems to humble her. She listens, moved by the declaration that even in her mundanity she is loved, affection steadfast in its purity. Rose's hand gently squeezes Bella's, her touch as light as the words floating above. "Because I love you, because of love." These words are a gentle veil that envelops the simplicity of their connection with deep depth. Amidst the bright garden, Belly's awe is evident as he kneels, steadfastly believing that even if his feelings are a silly fantasy, his world remains illuminated by Rose's presence, and nothing can shake his heart. Looking up at the sky, surrounded by nature, Rose's innermost feelings blossom outward. Her love for Bella is her source of happiness, a heartfelt confession that softens her features, making her eyes as tender as the feelings they hold. Rose's gaze is gentle as she looks at Bella, her determination firm in her statement. She vows to do everything in her power to ensure his happiness, a silent promise whispered by the wind, as ephemeral but as strong as the falling leaves around them. Two schoolgirls are standing in a dimly lit room, looking at a notebook. One of them is clearly impressed by the writing inside, commenting on its coolness. Another suggests checking the first page by name, implying that this is where the author is usually identified. In a shadowy atmosphere, the shocked girl shares her disbelief that a particular girl they both know, who always seemed to study, could have written this. She admires the expressions in the text, calling them stunning, and wonders how someone so diligent could create such expressive text. The girl is sitting alone at her desk, surrounded by a constellation of sparkles that reflect her own world. With a calm expression on her face, she admits that her work is indeed good, but questions the importance of this fact, remaining indifferent to any potential recognition. Finally, there is a close-up of the quiet girl with a mysterious appearance, as someone off-screen reassures her that her writing is the best and that she will definitely win the award. The girl's facial expression is a mixture of calmness and uncertainty, which conveys the complexity of her feelings. Rose is lying in bed, sunlight heralds a new day. Her peaceful repose is suggestive of dreams that may have danced with the same love she loves, a serene portrait of peace. Her peace is suddenly disturbed by a change. Her hand looks different. Her body changes. The call of sunlight goes unanswered, and confusion permeates the space that once held peace. Melly enters, cheerfully holding out a special gift, unaware of the violent change that has come over Rose, who is now in someone else's body, prompting questions that float like unmoored ships in a stormy sea. Rose's plight unfolds further. Her desire for her next life, once a whimsical thought of becoming a cicada, now a mysterious twist of fate. Melly's confusion mirrors our own as we are left to ponder the intricacies of Rose's transformed reality. Millie exclaims that the gift from Bella's maid is ready, and Rose, surprised, asks if she's interested. Rose is in the room, excitedly asking what they wanted to show her. Melly enthusiastically talks about an effective cream that makes the skin brighter and more beautiful, designed to emphasize its natural beauty. The maid, smiling, holds natural makeup, saying that she clicked faster than Mom, showing her attractiveness. Melly happily shows off her exclusive design, proudly talking about the 100 meters of fabric that accentuate the beauty of her dress. Melly and the maids pose together in sparkling dresses, waiting for Rose's transformation into the most beautiful lady. Rose sits on the bed with toys around her, silently listening to the plans for the day, the stars twinkling in the air from her fascination. Rose is lying on the bed, saying she is still asleep as the sun comes through the window and the light is reflected on the bed. Melly and Belly are confused about their plans for the day while Rose hides under the covers, exhausted. Belly worries where Rose has gone as she stares at the empty bed while Rose quietly leaves for breakfast, leaving them in the dark. Women are standing and talking in a luxuriously decorated room. One, in a purple dress, speaks confidently, assuming that she will bring Rosa, and the other, in white, seems to be waiting for instructions. A sense of anticipation fills the air. A sudden commotion disturbs the peace of the house. The facilities are thrown into disarray when someone screams to escape from somewhere, causing shock among the residents who wonder who the person is. The three girls look at the stairs, amazed by the rapid movement they see for the first time. One with brown hair, Melly, notes the speed, while the others express disbelief, marveling at the sight as if witnessing a miracle. Persistence sweeps through the group as one suggests this is no time for surprise. Melly decides to alert the elder, ordering the others to chase the fleeing figure. An amazing scene unfolds as a woman with striking red hair, Rose, races down the corridor. Observers find it hard to believe that this is the same woman known for her gentle demeanor who is now running with such strength. Rose, a red-haired woman, is lying on the floor, appearing disoriented. Concerned for her well-being, the others ask if she is okay, and she reflects on her fatigue and contemplates staying on Earth. A man with golden hair, Beryl, Rose's brother, stands among the flowers. His face is a mixture of surprise and questioning as he recognizes the red-haired woman and asks if she really is his younger sister. In a close-up, A hand gently lifts Rose's chin, while an off-panel voice says that she has never met anyone with the character of Beryl, her brother, suggesting a deep family bond and a unique bond. Finally, Rosa stands face-to-face with Beryl. The conversation stops as they share a quiet moment, the surroundings simply blurring into the background of an important sibling meeting. Rose stands with her back to Beryl and looks ahead in astonishment. Her face shows surprise. Maybe she just met someone unplanned. Beely, whose face is not visible, is probably also surprised by this meeting, as can be seen from his posture. Meanwhile, Melly in the background seems worried, apparently running towards them.